Welcome to Playing the Big, Beautiful Long Game, where entrepreneurship meets spirituality. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of personal fulfillment, spiritual growth, and business success. This podcast delves into the idea that entrepreneurship is not just about profits or growing businesses. It's also about embracing purpose, meaning, and inner growth. Each episode features conversations with entrepreneurs and thought leaders who share their journeys of building businesses that align with their highest values and deepest calling. I'm your host, Debbie Zita. Sit back, relax, and thank you for being here. Welcome, wonderful Tannaz. Thank you so much for being here. Can you please
Thank you,
let the
Debbie, for
audience...
having me.
You're so welcome. Can you please let the audience know who you are and what it is that you do?
Yes. So I'm Tannaz Hosseinpour. I am a relationship coach and a registered psychotherapist here in Canada. And I have a few businesses on the side that I absolutely love.
Beautiful. Tell us, what is your favorite business that you're working on and why?
Um, I don't know if I have a favorite because I have honestly learned that how you do something is how you do everything. And so it really is my intention to bring all of me into everything that I do. But right now, I'm just feeling really whole and fulfilled serving my one-on-one clients, whether it's in the therapy room or coaching room. So I think I feel the most drawn right now to this work.
Oh, so beautiful. I can feel your deep connection and deep passion for what you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tanaz, how long have you been doing this work for?
I've been doing it for 8 years and I wasn't meant to do this. I'm originally Persian and, from the Middle Eastern culture, there really is only three paths to take. You're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. And I was conditioned to be a lawyer. And right after I finished my master's in law and did another master's in management, I really sat down and I asked myself, why am I not? Something feels off. Energetically, something felt off. And I was doing dispute resolution law, which was all about people fighting and it's like the ruptures in a relationship, whether it's platonic, romantic, whether it was between governments or corporations. And it was this big question mark for me of how do we go from, being in love and shaking hands and having good intentions for a healthy dynamic to now we're fighting over the most small minor details. And I think that's when I did a U-turn, but I didn't do the U-turn. The universe kind of helps me do the U-turn through the suggestions that other people made to me. And so, I was running a book club at that time, and one of the girls was like, "You need to look into coaching." And I'm like, I have no idea what that means. I thought she meant a physical coach. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I am not an athlete. Do you not see me? I don't look like an athlete. And she's like, no, there's this whole coaching world. And so I looked into it and I've been reading a lot of spiritual and mystical books since the age of 20. So I really trust that God speaks to us through people. And so I looked into that and then I niched down on relationships. And someone else at the same time was like, you should start a podcast. I'm like, what is a podcast? And they're like, oh my God, it's this audio thing that people are getting on. This is like 2017. So it all started that way. People suggested it and it just led a new path for me.
Oh, I love it so much. It's interesting. I think you said I wasn't meant to do this, but actually, I would lovingly challenge that by saying I think that you actually were meant to, Tanaz.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was definitely conditioned to do something else, but I've also I really believe that, our purpose isn't linked to one thing. It's a manifestation of that gift and however way you want to do it. So as a child, I was always great at public speaking. And I think that's when my parents were like, you should be a lawyer. You would be great at law. Like you can debate. And I've learned that, okay, I can take that skill and write books or do a podcast or be in a therapy room. It's the manifestation of the skill and not necessarily a particular career.
Beautiful. Very beautifully articulated. I want to ask you, Tanaz, there's a few different angles and levels and layers to the podcast. And I feel with you, I would love to just find out what speaks to you the most because we can talk about esoteric matters and your journey from, you mentioned from 20, reading different things around that topic. We can certainly talk about, personal development, human behavior, psychology, relationship coaching. And we can also talk about business and talk about, profit and
Mhm.
purpose. And, if we have time, and our time is limited, but we can cover a little bit of each. But today, in this energy, as we meet today, and it's our first time meeting as well. What speaks to your heart the most?
Um, right now, what speaks most to me is creating safe spaces for people to feel like they belong, through whichever medium that is, whether again it's through that one-on-one therapeutic relationship or it's through creating communities where people meet up and engage in shared activities. So whatever it is, I think it's all aligned with the purpose of creating safe containers.
Beautifully, beautifully said. Is there a way, and it's interesting, it's coming up for me this week because I've had a couple of challenges. It's been a really beautiful week, but a really challenging week of a lot of misunderstandings
Mhm.
and me being very time poor and not having the space to hold the usual containers in time that I
Mhm.
would, even though the space in my heart, hasn't changed. I'm wondering if you have anything to say around that, the resolution piece, because it is so interesting when we have a safe container and we have this loving connection, as you were talking about, romantic, government, personal, professional, whatever it is. But is there a way that when that switch flicks and there's a misunderstanding or something's not aligned anymore, I'm wondering if you have any words of wisdom as to how we can stay, if I can say heart-centered or stay still holding a container even while we navigate that process, which is sometimes inevitable as a human to have disagreements.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you just normalize disagreements because usually people are like, they think conflict means disconnection, but actually connect become a medium of deeper connection and understanding. But I think for us to be able to get to that point of deeper, like reframing it as connection, is the most powerful element that I have practiced and researched and I try to teach as much as I can is the art of pausing. If we can just pause and allow ourselves some space and some time to take a step back, to regulate the nervous system, to be able to ground ourselves and to be able to validate and soothe whatever emotion is coming up before we jump on the solution train. We tend to want to fix, or react. But if we can just pause, check in with the vulnerable child. What is she feeling? What is she needing? Allow her or him to settle and then take a step forward and lean from that heart-centered space. I think that pause can be super powerful.
So beautifully said. And then I think there's then the journey that we take beyond that. And I share, if I may, from deep experience, which is my former husband and I, father of my child, who will be 17. Wow, but he will be 17
Wow.
next month. And we separated and we divorced 10 years ago. Very challenging, but we never went through the courts. It was all a collaborative process. And it was one of my moments of spiritual awakening where I found my heart. And so I was going to retreats and I was going to all these different, places to explore this part of me and navigate the grief and how it sort of, I guess, ended. Well, there is no end because we're parenting and that's forever.
Yes.
We're at a point now where on the weekend I went to his son's fourth birthday. So he remarried and they had a child, and the child calls me Auntie Deb at my request from when his wife was pregnant. And they invited me to join the party, and we've had a number of things like that. Yeah, a number of stories like that. And we've had times where we didn't always, see eye to eye, but I think it's rare because we just always put our son first. And that love for our son, who's also neurospicy or neurodiverse, who needs extra care, it was just always that's the position we come from. We'll always come back to that. To the point, Tanaz, where 5 years after our divorce, my lawyer, because we still had to get lawyers for the legal part of it, as you,
Yeah.
yeah, it might be different in Australia, I'm not sure, but she actually became a client of mine. And I actually helped her to set up her collaborative legal practice because her alignment with where she was working just wasn't quite there for various reasons. I won't go into the details, but she moved away, and then I was also connected to the Victorian Association of Collaborative Professionals in Victoria's estate that I'm in. So I'm very passionate about sharing that story because I thought it was normal, but it's actually what I've come to realize
Yeah.
quite rare. But my question for you is that worked because both he and I were on the same page. Where I'm struggling now in my vulnerability, as I'm sharing literally this week as these things are happening, is these people don't want to communicate. They want to go through email or text. And that makes the process very challenging. For me, it comes just from conversations. Just jump on the
Mhm.
phone. Let's have a quick coffee. I know this is hard. And I'm just wondering, and I feel so deeply to share because often my learnings, as you will agree, I think comes
Yeah.
before others are learning, my clients, my listeners. And I love to share in this way so others can hear and be saved from the pain I've had to go through this week. So, any tips on how we do that? I don't know if you have any tips, but yeah, let's see.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing that. I love hearing like positive co-parenting experiences because again, our experience of reality is based on our thoughts, opinions, beliefs, and perceptions. And when we feed it new evidence, we change the trajectory of our life. We can enhance it. So people hearing that story realize, oh, it's possible. And just that thought alone can create such positive ripple effects. So thank you for sharing that. As you were sharing the second part of your statement, I was thinking to myself of, we can only meet people to the depth that we've met ourselves. And so as you were sharing that some people are like saying, no, let's keep it to emails, let's keep it to messages. I just sense their underlying fear behind that of, ooh, like what part of them feels scared to be more vulnerable, to allow for that conversation to happen in a different way. And for them, perhaps it's their way of protection. And so, as the receiving end, asking ourselves, like, what are our boundaries? What is it that I want to experience? And how can I meet the person um, halfway in a way that feels safe? To both of us, because I think everything comes back to safety. That's what I've noticed is everything comes back to bodily relational safety. And so, how can we create an environment where that person feels safe enough to bring down their guards?
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you so much for allowing me to share and also to witness in, where there is still learning for me because we're always learning. And I think also so important, I have this position within myself as a leader where I feel like, oh my goodness, I'm embarrassed that this is even happening. But then I also
Mhm.
I have that part of me that goes, but you're also only human and there's pressures and limitations and there's always layers and levels to this that are being revealed as I also up level in my leadership space and
Yeah,
welcome more people into my system as well.
yeah,
Yeah, so a
yeah,
humbling for me too. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I
So
love
that's
that.
where
And
else
it's
should we? Oh, go ahead, please.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say, where else should we go? Because I'm loving the energy and the conversation. I've like left the questions behind and I'm just flowing with whatever is coming through for us both.
Wherever you want to go. I was just going to share that, again, I love some of the things you're saying because I mean, I'm loving everything that you're saying, but this particular statement of like humanizing our experiences in life. And I think for me as well, like when conflict comes up, I'm like, okay, this pause, there's this Kabbalistic concept of pause, what a pleasure. Like I pause and I'm like, what a pleasure this is happening. What a pleasure I'm getting triggered. It's an opportunity for me to dig deeper. Like, what part of me, the vulnerable child within me, needs attention? What does she need to hear? And so for me as well, the critic comes and says, you need to have it all figured out because this is your career. Like, you're a
Right.
therapist, you're this. And then I'm like, wait a second, no. First of all, it's not human doing. We're human beings.
Yes.
And part of being a human being is experiencing the vast array of human experiences and human emotions. So it's been a great humbling experience for me too, to allow myself to be human. And to be human is to experience it all.
Amazing. This is the funniest thing that's coming through to us, and I've never experienced this in a podcast, but I'm just so connected to our energy that we're bringing. I feel like I want to ask if you want to turn the tables and ask me a question.
Ooh, yes, I would love. Okay, so as we were going through your definitions of self, and I love all of them, but my question as I was reading it is, where did the inspiration come from? What moment was it that you got the download of these are the versions of self that I see and experience?
Such a good question. It was many moments. It wasn't really one.
Hmm.
But if I can, I guess, condense it down for the sake of our podcast, uh, I realized 5 or 6 or so years ago that I was having these repeated conversations with women, with my
Hmm.
clients, with strangers, because at that point I did not know my boundaries very well. So everyone would gravitate to me as the light being that I am and share about money and sex and spirituality and business. And then I went through a very significant trauma, unfortunately, one of a number of traumas. And it was those traumas, I'll pause here. I'll go into this and then go back to the other part. Those traumas made me lose my identity. Not in a safe spiritual awakening kind of way, in a sinister, abusive, wrongdoing type of way that could have easily taken me out of this world a number of times actually. But
I'm
a soul doesn't get given, thank you for honoring me. A soul doesn't get given what she or he cannot handle. And I've come to realize my strength and my lack of identity actually was the path that led me to understanding that we have no identity, but yet we are always creating a new identity to manage, to navigate, to cope, to interact with the dynamic that is our world. And so now I get to really deeply dance between those two understandings. I am nothing and I'm everything at the same time.
Mhm.
I'm a drop in the ocean and I am the ocean. And had I not been through those things, I wouldn't be able to speak in this way where you can hear I'm speaking from deep truth. This is not something I've read in the Bhagavad Gita. This is not something I've gone to an ashram and just had a weekend experience. And with love and respect to everyone who's had those types of experiences, we can have awakenings in a moment. But for me,
Mhm.
this was a deep decades of journeying of just obstacles, abandonment, betrayal, trauma. And so when I was helping these women, I realized these conversations kept happening. And then I prayed. I said,
Mhm.
God, there's something here that needs to be birthed for the world. And
Mhm.
I got the sense I had to first do the process and bring those conversations to myself. And that's how I built my business. I went from nothing, losing everything, to building it up to 100K consistently, and then now having generated over a half a mil. And I feel like I'm just getting started. And then I prayed again, saying, but what is this? Like that's impressive. And I'm so grateful that I could do that for myself and now for others. What is this thing called? And I was in my kitchen in this house downstairs and I was weeping in frustration. God, please, I need you. I need you. Please tell me, what is this? What's it called? And a little whisper in my mind, Debbie, it's the selves. And I'm like, I know it's about selves. And it's like, quiet child, listen, it's under your nose. SELVES, spiritual, emotional, legacy, valued, ecology, sexual. And I wept. And every layer of my being and every muscle and every hair lit up and everything was like, oh my God. And that's how it
Mhm.
came to be. And then my client put it together in a visual. I met a lawyer. She said, you got to register this. I went to someone else, had it registered. And now I'm looking at really launching this on a much larger scale than what we're seeing just here. But that's to answer your question, that's how it was birthed.
I love that. As you were sharing, I was thinking about this concept we have in the therapeutic world called post-traumatic growth, and how, if we allow it, and if we have, the of course, the support there for us to transform that pain to growth and to allow our bodies and ourselves to be a medium of conscious manifestation, like to be a vessel. Use me. I love the statement of use me. God use me. Every morning I wake up with the same prayer. Universe, tell me where to go, what to say, who to say it to. And then I just surrender. I'm done. Um, and so as you were sharing that, I was like, wow, like allowing yourself to be used by the universe to birth this beautiful concept.
Thank
It's
you
very powerful.
so much. Thank you so much. I don't know
Yeah.
where we go from here. Now that we switch the roles, I'm like, yeah, you're the podcast host. Um, you tell me, where would you like to go? And I have to add, you have the most beautiful, soothing voice. So I'm
Thank you.
surprised that you also have your own podcast and your clients are very blessed indeed to have
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know. We can, I always think that when people are starting a business, first of all, like how can we help people normalize the experience of, okay, there are going to be challenges. I think something that usually comes up, especially in the entrepreneurship route, is if it's meant to be, then it's meant to be challenge free. So maybe we can talk about that. We can,
Good one.
talk about like, okay, yeah, maybe we can dive in there.
I love this. I literally just said to my life partner about an hour ago, that I've woken up to, something's not working and something here. And he's very calming and very grounding. And I still can go into some of my PTSD responses. And then I have to just breathe.
Yeah.
And, I've got the tools, but it still comes in sometimes. And I said to him, okay, baby, I'm going to take it that nothing's happening to me. It's just I'm up
Hmm.
leveling and I'm just seeing more of the gaps. And I thought they were closed, but they're not. But it's not going to bring me down. It's just part of this new level that I'm in. And it's probably
Hmm.
going to keep happening. And he's like, amen to that. So, sometimes I was hearing also this year about new level, new devil, which I don't like that term.
Yes.
But I think for the sake of what we're talking about, it's a little bit like that. It's just there's challenges, there's obstacles. They don't
Hmm.
go away, they change. I think what happens though, and then I'll share mine, and I'd love for you to share your take on it. But I think we become more resilient, we become more creative, we become more aware of ourselves, of people, of the systems and structures. And then when everything kind of quiet downs again, which it happens where we have moments of chaos and then there's a season of calmness and the harvest is growing and everything else, it's just part of the game of business. It's just you can't avoid it. It's just you leaning into it and learning from it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think like for me, money is energy. And so as the business grows, as the company grows, as you grow, right? So you're calling in more of that energy, but you need to create a bigger vessel, right? And so I think of it as like this elasticity, this rubber band. And so, when in order for that rubber band to become wider, it keeps needing to be like pulled and pulled and pulled. So you create a bigger space. And so that's just the universe kind of pulling you through these challenges so that you can create a bigger container to call in the new clients, to call in the additional income, to call in, the new ideas that are coming. Exactly. Yes.
For those people on YouTube, I've got an elastic band for my hair that I am stretching. Yes, I love that analogy. I've never heard of that before. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it really helps of like, okay, I'm growing. And so as we grow, it's like, the problems you had in elementary school are incomparable to the problems you had in high school.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my God, if only, when you're mid elementary, I remember I would complain and, people would tell me, oh my God, this is nothing. Wait until you get to high school. I'm like, oh, it could get worse. And then you get to high school, you're like, oh, I wish I could go back to elementary
Right.
school.
And then you do college, and then there's married, there's a divorce, unfortunately, in my case, and many other cases as well. it's just, yeah, it just changes and evolves, and hopefully we get wiser in the process.
Yes. Yes. And that's a choice. I've learned that's a choice. And that's where our free will comes in. I don't believe that time heals. I don't believe that wisdom comes with age.
Yeah.
I think it's a very intentional choice that we get to kind of enable that free will option of ours of what am I going to learn from this and how can I grow from this? And just pausing throughout the day of instead of, why is this happening to me to what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And I think community can be really helpful here of again having that safe space to take those thoughts and in a place where they're not adding fuel to the fire, but they're allowing you enough grounded space to kind of pause and to reflect and to digest and to become a detective of your own brain and your own life. So I really think community can play a really big part in helping us gain that wisdom.
I love this so much. And I also think sometimes we don't have those communities, that they don't exist for us for whatever reason, whether it's just different values or, well, actually, it's probably values, to be honest, because I notice with myself, the communities that I've been involved with in the past, a few of them I'm no longer with. And why? Because the values were not there. I evolved,
Mhm.
I changed. Perhaps they evolved and changed. It's sometimes hard to tell, right? Because you think, did I change?
Yeah.
Did you change? What is happening? But it just came to a point where I actually felt disrespected.
Hmm.
I felt that I wasn't getting what I needed from those places. So I consciously chose to move away, which is not easy. But then what
Yeah.
I've often done in that case is, either I'll find another community, which is lovely, or, and I feel this is important for those who are listening and watching, create your own.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. I love this, and I'll give a really generic example of that. During COVID, there was a lockdown, and I had this deep yearning in my heart to read Rumi poetry in English. And none of my friends, liked to read Rumi or to read Persian poetry. And that was okay. People can fill different intimacy tanks, and we can talk about that.
Mm.
But what I did is I just went on meetup.com and I created like Rumi Persian poetry in English. And over the next 2 years of COVID lockdown, we grew to this group of like hundreds of people where every week we were meeting up for an hour online and discussing it. And I felt so seen in that particular area. I was like, I kind of ticked my own box by creating that space and which served other people too. So you never know. Like you might think, oh, I love to, I don't know, crochet butterflies. So go create a group that crochets butterflies. Like create that group. You would be surprised by how many people want what you want. People just don't they fear taking that initiative, that first step because they're shy or they have their inner critic saying like, that's so weird. Like, why do you want to crochet butterflies? Whatever the critic says to keep us isolated. Our core need is to belong, but the critic tries to isolate us from that. So we feel like we're not enough. But if we can lean in and say, no, there's at least one more person in the 7 billion population online that loves what I love, start there.
I love this so much. Do you have a favorite? Well, you would. And sorry to put you on the spot. Your favorite Rumi quote?
Poem.
I love, yeah,
Mhm.
poem. I love Rumi as well.
When you said the drop in the ocean, I was like, oh, she resonates with Rumi. Yes, the wound is where the light enters you is my favorite of Rumi's poems. And I really believe that the shattering, the life quakes, those moments that break us into pieces become the moments where we are now in the position to kneel and to pray and to allow ourselves to be healed and so that we can walk home to wholeness, which is our original state.
I'm just taking all of that in, feeling the frequency of your words and the depth of Rumi and what he brought to the planet.
No, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bless him.
Yeah. Oh, what an incredible soul. Incredible soul. And isn't it just so beautiful to be able to have, firstly to have access to this space? Because I feel if I didn't know that part of me, which is the spiritual self, it's that
Mhm.
part that there's no words. It's what we just shared. It's that oof. It's roomy. It's the sunset. It's all of those things we can't quite explain. To be able to first know that part of you, and then to be able to make decisions and operate and live from that space in our lives and in our businesses is just such a blessing.
Ooh, when you said that, I got goosebumps because I really wish, I pray, actually, I pray that people will allow their spiritual selves to lead their lives. Because especially in business, and people tell me like, how do you market yourself? And I'm like, I swear I don't market myself. And I trust that the right client will show up. I trust that the right opportunity will be shared with me through someone else's mouth, that I will see certain things and it will feel like a sign. And I'm not going to say it was easy to cultivate this, but I think, and I was sharing this with my mom, who's actually the first person who gave me my first Dr. Wayne Dyer book when I was 16, and she changed the trajectory of my life through it. But what I have learned is as you enhance your relationship with the divine, whatever you want to call it, God, light, universe, Jesus, Moses, whoever, whatever, rock, um, it helps you cultivate a better experience of reality because, as you said, life is not happening to me. It's not even happening for me. It's happening through me. It's happening as
Mm.
me. We're
Oh,
taking it
amen. I've
even
not
one
heard that.
step deeper,
Oh God, I love it.
right? And I'm just a medium. I just wake up, and there's a great book by Michael B. Singer,
I
The
love it.
Surrender Experiment.
I know the surrender experiment. And I had the blessing of
So good.
meeting Dr. Wayne Dyer. Did you just say Dr. Wayne Dyer?
Yes.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was, and I was quite flippant. I was polite, but I got an autograph for a friend of mine, actually my ex-husband's best friend. He loved him, and I was like, I don't know who you are, but can you do this for? And he's like, Yes, Debbie, it's lovely to meet you. And then about a year later, I was like, Oh my God, Dr.
Oh!
Wayne Dyer.
Bless him. His soul is
Yes,
honestly one of the most powerful souls that I actually call upon often when I'm like, use me, tell me what to do. But if we allow ourselves to be used by the universe and to let go of our plans, to let go of, for me, it was letting go of the comfort of the degrees I had, and the security, quote unquote, that they were supposed to bring for me, and to trust and say, you know what? Let's see what's going to be birthed through me. And really, again, that prayer, this really powerful prayer of universe, tell me, what to say, where to go, and who to say it to, has allowed so many opportunities to enter my world that I honestly, my logical mind wouldn't have come up with it. Sometimes people are like, where'd you come up with that idea? I'm like, I didn't. Like,
wow.
none of this belongs to me. I don't even believe in, like, nothing I do belongs to me. Take and use it however you want. But I think it makes business more enjoyable. My whole point of that was to share that it makes business more enjoyable and it feels like a co-creation. It's like your business partner is God. So it's
Yes.
like the best cheerleader you could possibly
Oh my
have.
gosh, it's so true. And it's just so many like aha moments for me and landing in. And it also reminds me of the feminine versus masculine. It's the flow, it's
Mhm.
trusting, it's surrendering. And then we still, of course, need to, answer our emails and answer our phone and everything else, take the action. But it's dancing between those two places. And
Mhm.
I'm wondering, and I hope you don't mind, I feel like I'm almost getting like a free therapy session here, but I personally struggle with that because I go into over control sometimes and hypervigilance and some of those places that I feel block the flow, but I've also learned to like kiss myself, love myself, because that is because of what I've been through. There was just when there's just so much trauma, that
Yeah.
PTSD response is very, very there. And I do hope and pray that there'll be a time when it's less and less as time moves on, or in that intentional moment where I can just, with God, create that to happen. But I'm just wondering if you have any words of wisdom of how can I and others like me get back into a flow state where we're really trusting God? And I think I know the answer. It probably comes back to safety, feeling safe again.
Yeah. You know what? As you were sharing that, I resonate a lot. I was an extreme perfectionist, control freak. And so what I've learned, and this is my theory, is exactly as you said, the balance between the masculine and the feminine. The idea comes, but someone needs to use discipline and structure and willpower to implement it and to take inspired action. The word action is literally in the word attraction. You can't attract without action.
Mm.
So that um, I agree, I believe. But I actually have this little keychain with me, and it's my inner me. It says inner you, and it's my childhood photo.
Oh.
And I have it with me. It's actually a business that I'm launching of like having yourself with you wherever you go, your inner child. So whenever the same fears come up and I go into over control and I go into over planning, I have her by me and I just look at her. I'm like, talk to me. What are you scared about? Like, what is your fear? She's panicking. It's the vulnerable child within us panicking of if I don't control this, things won't get done. And then I'm gonna fail. And if I fail, I'm not good enough. And if I'm not good enough for me, it's like all my parents' sacrifices will go to waste. And then now, not only have I let myself down, but I've let them down. And I love them so much, and this can't happen. And I take a deep breath and I look at her. I'm like, I understand, my love. Take a deep breath. And I'm like speaking to her and I'm like, take a deep breath. Okay. Now that, I validated her, what can we do? Which one of this is a real threat and what is a perceived threat? How can we bring more lightness into it? But it really is, again, that fear masked under that fear is this fear of losing our safety. So for me, my inner child work is the way I bring myself back into that balance of sitting with her. And instead of saying, ugh, whatever, like I'm going to dismiss your emotions, I sit with the emotion and hear her out. And it's always this catastrophizing of slippery slope. We just went to like, now my parents are going to think I'm the worst thing that ever happened and they're going to be disappointed in me. And it's like, okay, that's a perceived threat. It's not real.
Oh, you just had me crying because so my mother died when I was pregnant with my son, and my nana died soon after that. And then I also lost three friends, and then there was an abusive relationship in the middle of that too that I can't even call a relationship, and he died as well. Yeah, thank you. And I feel a lot of the discomforts of the last few weeks with these disagreements and things that have been happening. And a lot of them are with women. And I messaged my partner last night saying, okay, baby, firstly to my life partner, and I'll declare this human being is an angel. He was sent to me by God when I had no one to rely on. And he's held spaces for me that no one should ever have to. And I messaged him saying, I know what's going on is these women are reflecting to me, mum who's gone and wanting to succeed in this big level to help so many people, to earn the money that gives me back what I feel like I've lost in losing them. And all of those things are true, but also in this moment, it's just okay to just be a woman who's now 44 but has regressed to her little 3-year-old and just needs to say, mum is gone, nana's gone. They're genuinely, they're gone. And it's okay, but not okay. And I, as the woman, and I'm speaking for anyone who has lost a parent or lost friends, and I don't actually know anyone other than people who've been through wars that have lost as many people as I have. But what I've learned to do and how I'm still here, and forgive my deep vulnerability today, but it's coming through and I'm allowing it. But I've had to learn to mother myself and
Mhm.
imagine what that highest version of my mother would say to me, which is how proud she is of me. How whether it was a 1K month or a 50K month or a negative 20K month, or the clients received the love and guidance and they adore me, or they totally misunderstood me and they can't stand me. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I know my intentions were pure. I did my best, I tried, and I wake up the next day and I try again.
Mm.
So I feel like you've
Thank
been brought in today, Tannaz, as a little bit of a therapy session for me. I'll make sure my team watches the playback and make sure that I'm not portraying myself in a completely overly vulnerable way. But I think vulnerability, especially in a podcast like this, it's important to witness the strength that we as women have, but also the deep vulnerability that I carry because of what I've experienced.
And it's your superpower, right? Vulnerability is really is a superpower. And thank you for sharing that. And as you were sharing it, I was visualizing your, your inner child and, her kind of being sad and being like, I've experienced a lot of loss and that grief. And yes, anyone who went through what you went through would feel the way you're feeling. And that's what I would say to her. And, maybe hug her, hold her, allow her to cry it off. And it makes sense that all these people are, it's triggering that wound. Um, and just sitting with that until she's ready to hear us go into the solution mode, as long as that's going to take. And then the healthy adult steps in. And, in schema therapy, the vulnerable child and a healthy adult are the two modes we work with the most. And, the healthy adult, which you said is the highest version for you of your mom, to come in and say, okay, my love, what can I give you right now? What do you need right now? And helping us reparent that wound.
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tanaz, for allowing me. I've had some amazing guests on my podcast, and I have one other guest. The first guest I had, Karen Walker Cohn, was really beautiful and allowed space for me as well. And I haven't had, this type of conversation since then. And I just want to say, bless you and thank you for the work that you're bringing to the world. And yeah, make sure that people are reaching out to you and finding you. And please share with us. I've got a couple more questions before we finish up. But while I'm saying this, please share with us the name of your podcast as well.
Yes. So, first of all, I am so glad that you allowed me to create this space. So, thank you for that. And you can find me everywhere on Minutes on Growth. So, my website is Minutes on Growth. I'm on socials, on all the socials, Minutes on Growth. And my podcast is also Minutes on Growth.
Beautiful. Nice and easy. Gorgeous. Can I ask you, Tanez, uh, talking about the selves, which we spoke about when we first,
Mhm.
before we even hit record, actually, what self is your favorite and why? And it's there behind me too.
Yeah. For me, as I was reading it, the spiritual self really stood out to me. Um, I would say it's interesting. When I was younger, I would definitely say the legacy self stood out a lot to me. And then over the years, as I realized that my skills can be change shape and I can wear different hats and I can play with these gifts in different ways, the spiritual self became a medium of creative expression in a way that has no limits and boundaries for me. Uh, I can be a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time, how you said it, everything and nothing. So for me, the spiritual self, I think, is the one I resonate with most at this moment in my life. It might change over time.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tanaz. And our lucky last question is, what advice do you have for others who are creating a business that serves both the world and their heart?
Mm. Trust that if the vision is there for you, it's meant to be manifested through you. And yes, there's so many, let's say, barber salons. But the way you're going to do it is going to be so different than the way other people do it because no two people are the same. And as cliche as that sounds, we resonate with different people because of that. It's like, oh, I connect with you, so I'm going to use your services. Someone else might say, no, I connect with you. And so when we're sharing our gifts, it is the most selfless thing we can do because we're giving people options to practice their free will and to practice their intuitive pull of, oh, yes, you, I want to work with you, I don't. And so they have more options available to them. So trust that if you're born with this gift, if you have this vision, you bringing it into the physical realm is not selfish. It's doesn't make you materialistic. It doesn't make you into any of the things that the inner critic is trying to convince you it's making you into. it actually is an opportunity for you to share and for someone else to experience that and to link with you and to belong and to connect. So if it's there, it's meant to be manifested through you and only you.
Mm, beautiful words. Beautiful words. Anything that is on your heart, Tannaz, that you would like to share before we finish up?
Um, just that I really, really enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed your vulnerability. I appreciated it. I honor it. And I think it's so important for us to be able to feel our feelings and openly. It doesn't make us weak. Um, our strength is in collaboration and connection and community. So, thank you so much for creating the space through your own energy and for allowing all of these conversations to flow through us for, the sake of the highest good.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Tannaz. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The information provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical, health, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified health professional or financial advisor before making any decisions related to your personal health or finances.